Okay.
Okay. Hi, Cronky. Welcome. We have already been talking for an hour. Shocker. I did not hit record because it was us going through personal stuff, which I know you would have been fine to listen, but I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we have learned or what we have learned about ourselves in the last, what do y'all say, 30, 60 days? Yeah. So we went into how each of us are doing, and what we have found is we have all, each of us individually, been through some very overwhelming stuff that has led us into our own kind of form of depression and episodes in different ways, heaviness. And so um, I asked these lovely ladies, and I answered the question is now, what am I currently learning about myself? And to sum it up, Jessica said, if I don't get everything done, the world will not end. Um, and Ashley said, and when I ask for help, I won't die or I won't melt on the inside. And then Cindy said, if I surrender, I am not weak. Now, I'm going to focus on the last parts of each of those sentences so you can hear our types in that. The world won't end, type 6. I won't melt or die on the inside, type 2. And I am not weak, type 8. So there's our reframing and affirmations and how we're being kind to ourselves. I hope that's an encouragement to you. That's a little overview of what we've discussed without, you didn't have to listen to the whole damn thing. Okay, so we are going to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes talking about book stuff. And I know Jennifer's already read the whole book, and I have listened now the whole thing on Audible, because just driving, it's not a long book. So I have down to that we left off. Did we stop at page 24? And or did we cover 25?
No, we're on integration and
That's
disintegration.
what I thought. Okay, because my highlighter color changed. So that's why I'm pretty sure that's where we left off. Okay. So integration and disintegration, which is actually appropriate for what coming out of what we just talked about, because we each probably went into some disintegration and to our stress points. So let's do this. Instead of reading the whole thing, since we've each now read, let's just let's look at what disintegration means, and then maybe look at our integration, disintegration, and then talk about what we resonate with as we share a line or lines with certain types. All right, so when a type is I'm in the middle of page 25. When a type is in good health, they are moving towards their basic desire, which comes in another chapter. When they are unhealthy, they gravitate towards their most dominant fear, which begins to control their behavior. Part of what makes the Enneagram so dynamic and useful is that it teaches that every basic type moves in a specific direction when it is integrating to health or disintegrating into the unhealthy regions of its personality. Okay. Now, down at the bottom too, it's good to say each basic type moves in the same direction when they either integrate or disintegrate. All right, so I have ours underlined. Okay, so Cronky and I both as type 8s is in disintegration. We go towards a 5. Jessica, you go towards the unhealthy side, I should say unhealthy side of a 5, unhealthy side of a 3, and then Ashley, unhealthy side of an 8. And then on page 27 in integration or growth, we're taking on the positive aspects of both their own number. That's what I love, the positive aspects of my own number and the numbers they're integrating towards as they move into health. So the beauty, oh my God, I love how a type 2 goes to the healthy side of a 4. That is a beautiful thing to me, just a beautiful thing to me. Because my niece is a type 4, and to her, she's like to see, and your daughter, like to see the healthy, oh, gorgeous. And then the 6 going to the healthy side of a 9, which, wow, What a gorgeous picture as well. My dad is a 9. So that healthy side, and just how you really, I love really being around a healthy 9, like what that does for my energy. And then of course, 8s, we go to the healthy side of a 2, which is where I think where people, when 8s are not willing to be vulnerable and show their weak side, where we can feel misunderstood because we do have that big heart part. And so when I am in health, people experience more of that from me, that beautiful, healthy 2. Okay. What are y'all's thoughts, if any, or questions on integration or disintegration? Or if not, we can keep moving, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking into the next pages where it talks about the 3. I don't know, that the disintegration part for me is, I think, where I start to, like, I know I'm a 6, but there's times I question, because 6, 4, 2 were so close on mine.
Mhm,
And I know I have a lot of 4.
mhm.
And so I don't know, the 3 kind of throws me off. And I don't know if I quite understand it yet. As to
Understand.
how that manifests.
Okay,
Um,
so when let's go ahead, and are you okay with jumping ahead just to answer that question, and then we'll go back?
yeah.
Okay. So on page 37, okay, where it's got where I have highlighted it in the middle of page 3, in the middle of the paragraph, it says the most important thing. Okay, let's go. Threes can completely turn off their emotions when they descend into the lower levels of their type's health. Okay.
Mm.
3, an unhealthy 3 might also become shallow, superficial, and obsessed with promoting themselves. A particularly unhealthy 3 could even identify solely with their material success, whether that be fame, money, power, or something else. Does any of that resonate with you? And I don't know that you would be the particularly unhealthy 3.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer it with a question.
Mhm.
So with that last part where it says identify solely with their material success, so would that be like me thinking, would that, how do I phrase it? I had a thought and I'm trying to phrase it. So I know when I'm in some of my unhealthy times, I lessen my um security when it comes to stuff like that, like the material success. Like I'll downplay it. Is that kind of what it's talking about, or is that something different? Where it's
Um,
like I'll identify with it, but in a negative connotation. Like I don't use it to bolster myself. I almost use it to self-deprecate myself. Does that make sense?
okay. Yeah, no, that's not the same thing.
I was gonna say, can I
Okay.
touch that as a wing 3?
Yeah.
So for me, when my wing 3 is, and I'm in unhealthy and my 3 is really strong, that's when I focus on like my reports and the things I didn't do. And did I not get the top in sales or the top? Like I want all the things. Like, and
Got
I
it.
focus on the numbers instead of the outcome
You were kind
for
of
me.
referring to that earlier when you're unhealthy. In other words, I didn't get all this done and check all the
Yeah.
boxes. The
Yes.
productivity
Gotcha.
that you can
Mhm.
take to
Okay.
the extreme.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
for
like
me,
hyper
because I
focusing
had,
on that
Yes.
right.
versus
For me, I
internal
felt
stuff.
like September was not a success in my business because I had less than $1,000 in retail sales. But if you look at the things that I did do, like, and I didn't focus on that, I focused on what I didn't accomplish instead
Mhm.
of what I did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's when my 3 is strong. And that's when I know that I need to take a step back, when I focus on looking at the reports. And when I go to the reports more than once in a day or more than once in a week or month, I need to step back and see what that motivation is, because it's not healthy. I can get my numbers at the beginning of the month and see who's going, if I need to message somebody who's going, but other than that, I shouldn't need to focus on my reports for the rest of the month.
Right. So when it says like, three's weakness comes from losing touch with their emotions. So would that be like the shutting down process where it's like, I'm not going to think about anything. I'm just going to look at the data and use that to validate either the reason that I'm not feeling, or am I reaching there too?
That's hard to say, because that could lean into your 6 some as well.
Yeah.
And that's a good question. And as I'm with this book, because it's just hitting the highlights of it, there would be trying to think where we could lean in more into the line and the lines and how they go, and finding a book for that. But because there is levels of the levels of development. There are 9 levels of development for each of the 9 types. Crazy, huh? 9. So I see if I have. So you have healthy. The first 3 are healthy. The second 3 are average. The bottom 3 are unhealthy. All right.
Yeah, I remember that from Road Back to You. That's kind of how they divvied it up.
So you may want to refer to that and look
Okay.
at the 3's levels of development as an average and an unhealthy, and see if you recognize any of that. But you probably are at the unhealthy 3 is allowing success work to identify who they are, and they are very goal oriented, and they're doing, and they're not at all in touch with any type of emotion. Almost, yeah.
That makes sense now, yeah.
Except for disappointment.
Well,
you definitely
true.
have that.
Yes.
That is a very present, and that's why I struggled with deciphering the 2 from the 3, because I'm very much like that. But that's when, that's where the social 2 comes into as well. So but like I said, I that's the part of the 3 that speaks to me, because I am about the things. I'm about the recognition, and I'm about the atta girl, you know what I'm saying? And
Admiration. Yeah, 3s are,
yeah.
They will, they want love, they'll settle for admiration. Right.
Yep.
I want love, I'll settle for respect.
Yeah.
But that's not somebody loving me for who I really am. It's just going, wow, I really look up to Cindy, which is fantastic. It feels really effing good for my ego. But is it fulfilling? And 3 struggle with that too. What is the difference between achievement versus fulfillment? So, yeah. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you more.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
No, it made sense what Ashley was saying about like focusing on the written documentation kind of thing versus whether it was done well or not, or whether what happened, just looking to the numbers for justification, I guess.
Does that mean where you're going to with the 3 is well, 3s that want to avoid failure at all costs. So are you looking for something that's going to say I'm successful by the numbers? Is that why you're looking, or you're looking at the reports for?
For me, I like to see growth year over year.
Right.
So when I start focusing on that, and last month I didn't, because it was so overwhelming
When you say focus, you mean hyper focus?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's obsessive.
So you're obsessing over that. Why? Tell me why you're obsessing over that.
Somewhere deep down, I feel like it motivates me. Of course, feelings are not facts, right? But the story I'm telling myself is that if my numbers are not good enough, I'm not good enough.
There you go. There it is, right there. So in other words, you have now identified Ashley Craig is her numbers.
Yep.
See? All right. So.
And if I don't
there
have it, like
is-
when I dropped that first level, like when I went from director down to associate, now I'm down to senior consultant. Y'all, it's like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck it.
So, and that's
That
when you're
sounds
going,
terrible, but-
okay, how am I here? Like, how did I get here to this stressful place, which we kind of just talked about, using rain and looking at that. How did I get into this stressful place where I've disintegrated a little bit? How did I get here? And looking at why, starting to redefine what is truly fulfillment for me, right? Yeah, that's good. In other words, I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not my
That's
numbers.
big. That's big. You are not your numbers.
No, I'm not the trophies.
No, you're not.
Oh my God.
You are not your trophies. But you are, the thing is coming
But I
in.
love the
I love the trophies too, but what I love more is, and this is for me, I can't say for you, like what I have come to love more is knowing that what I'm doing is blazing a trail for people coming behind me. And
Yes.
That's,
and getting to do the education, like for me.
Well, the part that's
and having-
fulfilling, that's fulfilling right there. Yes, that's
and the
fulfilling.
people that come to me and are like, oh, I love that. And that fills my cup, even
And
though
you can't
like
put a number on that.
you can't put a number on that. You
That's
can't.
fulfillment. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. For me. Okay.
Okay. So stances, I love stances because that can really help with somebody that's not sure of type, can help you kind of back into type, is to look at their stances. The dependent stance, it's 1, 2, and 6. Aggressive. I hate they put aggressive. Why don't they just put assertive? Because let's just say I'm not aggressive all the time. Assertive is the more healthy word. When I go to aggressive, but I can be assertive, right? So I'm going to say assertive. 3, 7, and 8. All right. And then withdrawing, because withdrawing is not always unhealthy, and dependent is not always unhealthy, right? Meaning 4, 5, and 9. So dependent is they're leaning in more into people. Okay. Assertive is going against, and then withdrawn is we're pulling away. All right. And then I have down here written 1, 2, and 6. They are thinking repressed. Okay. With the dependent stance is more thinking repressed. If you're looking at the 3 centers of intelligence, right? The assertive stance, we are more feeling repressed. And then with the withdrawing stance, they are more doing repressed. So it says, it has that. So basically it's written that, I just took that from where it was written and put it up next to those boxes. Thinking repressed, feeling repressed, doing repressed.
It's hard for me to
Oh, and it's on the
comprehend
next
that.
page. It's on 30. What? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it's hard for me to comprehend that I could ever be thinking repressed.
No, hold on. 1, 2, and 6. Where did it say that? Oh, that.
I mean, that's exactly when I saw your number next to mine. I was like,
that's a
One,
that
typo.
two,
doesn't quite
six.
go.
Maybe, hold on. That's what it says over there.
And yeah, I know. That's it doesn't make sense. That I had a question about that, but it didn't make sense to me. But
No, it
I know
doesn't.
this is more of an overview versus a
Mhm.
hard in depth. But I thought it was a typo, honestly. But it's written several times.
Well, and the
so-
thing is, this is this guy's version of the thinking repressed, feeling repressed, and doing repressed. And I've never heard that from
Right.
any other
Yeah.
any
Because
other
if you read on
Enneagram
into
teaching.
it,
So let's just hold on to that lightly, because the other thing, it says present focused, future focused, and past focused, well, you'd have to speak for yourself. You're more future focused, right?
yeah.
Out of fear. And 3, 7s, and 8s, I am future focused as well. And I struggle with being present in the moment because I'm always going and doing. 7s are always thinking about the future, because if they're in the present too long and something unpleasant comes up, they want to avoid it. So we have our
Yeah, and it's like,
reasons. Yeah.
yeah.
And
But
then
the weird
3s
thing is
are
like, if anything, like if I had to rank them, it would be future, past, present in like the things I'm focused on. So that again, that was a weird one. I mean, I know not all
Yeah, I'd
all
love
numbers are not the same, but
ask an
that
Enneagram
one was
about
hard
that.
for me
Yeah.
to. I was like, I don't know about that.
What
You
they're
put the
thinking.
most
Yeah,
the most thought-provoking one in the
In
in
the
the thinking
unthinking,
regrets. I was
well,
like, what?
yeah,
well, other than fives are, they're each, it's just different reasons why, you know.
Yeah.
yeah. Excuse me. That was the first thing in this where I was like, that doesn't fit me at all. Like if that's what a 6 embodies, this is the first time that I've blatantly been like, nope,
Well,
to everything in this section, just
other
in
than
this
the
section.
yeah, the dependent stance though, in moving towards people, right? 6
Even then, I actually tend to withdraw, but I know that's just me. I mean, that's personally, but it could mean something else. And like, I'm kind of like where the sexual versus one-to-one, like it doesn't mean romantic relationship. And so it could just be
Right.
the
Okay.
words being used or not.
So look at it this way. So the 3 dependent types, top of 29, look for guidance outside of themselves to make decisions about their lives. So that's what it means, it's moving towards people. Withdrawn stance, 4, 5, and 9. Like my niece Gracie, she ain't looking for guidance outside herself. She's completely within. So is a 5. So you look at
that makes sense.
yes. So in other words, you have to look at the definition of what they mean by dependent for that. But as far as the thinking, feeling repressed, that school of thought is true, not 100% true, I would say, for all of them, for sure.
And as living in a house with a 4 and a 9, doing repressed is definitely accurate.
Yep. I
I have 2 9s and a 4 in my house. Oh,
And they're going
David said you got
in
Augie.
here with everything, and you're going outward.
Exactly, which is why I'm about to implode.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on from that, and let's move on from let's not fool with tri-types. That's that's kind of a controversial. That's why it's a I want to look into that more, but I don't know how I feel about that yet. All right, let's go into chapter 2, self-awareness and emotional intelligence. I'm looking at, we all pretty much understand that self-awareness is the ability to catch ourselves doing something in the moment that we're either proud of or not proud of. Sometimes I'm in the moment going, shit, Cindy, you're doing this different, right? Isn't that cool? Like sometimes it's not, self-awareness can be about wins in the moment, going, you know what, I'm in the moment, I am doing this differently. I'm doing this better than I have in the past. And then sometimes it's like, oh shit, here I am doing this. But self-awareness, so many studies have been done on it. The Cornell study of self-awareness, or the number one indicator of long-term success in leadership, really any relationship, is self-awareness, literally, because then I can take personal responsibility and accountability, and the person I'm in relationship with, whether it's a leadership role, whether it's a significant other, anybody. Okay. Anything y'all want to say about self-awareness or emotional intelligence other than we got this? At least I like to say we're on our way, right? Because it's a journey. Like hashtag on our way.
Always.
Okay. Type 1s. Have y'all seen y'all ever watch Gilmore Girls? Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
Okay. So real quick, I won't camp here long, but my niece Gracie, type 4, probably one of the biggest Gilmore Girl fans on the planet. I don't know how many times she's watched the series. She sent me an audio text the other day.
At least 20 times.
Yes. She said, Aunt Cindy, what type do you think Emily Gilmore is? And there's always this controversy, you know. She's like, what type? And Emily Gilmore is the matriarch anyway of. And so this goes into people if anybody is harsh at all, they go straight to they're a type A, and I hate that. So the controversy, she's like, some people say that she's a very unhealthy type 8. And some people say she's a type 1, but I'm not sure. And I said, well, whatever type she is, it's an unhealthy type. So then I got out the subtypes and I looked at the 1-to-1 subtype of the 1-to-1. And it screamed Emily Gilmore. So I took a picture of it and sent it to Gracie, and she voice messaged back. She's like, oh, it was so clever. Just hearing her give an analysis of Emily Gilmore and how through the lens of the Enneagram, I was so proud. And so yeah, check out the 1-to-1. That's Emily Gilmore. So it made me think about that as we look at type 1. Now my mom, she's not taken the instinctual stack, but I do believe she's probably a self-pres 1. Okay.
Love that snort. Is Amy a 1?
Oh, she's a 3.
Oh,
Like,
is
if you
she?
look her up in the Enneagram dictionary, hers a big fat ass picture right there by type 3, right at the top.
Okay, just kidding then.
And I'm not at all triggered by it. Okay.
Okay.
She's a 3 with the 2
That one.
wings. Yeah.
Okay. Now that makes
Kind
a
of
little
like
more sense.
Tim's. It's kind of like Tim's family, like I said, because his mom's reading The Road Back to You. She's like, "What do you think I am?" And I'm just like, their whole family, whatever they are, they're healthy as all get out, and it's annoying because I typically, if you can type someone, you're usually picking out the negatives just because it's the
True.
easiest way to identify.
Right.
I can't. It's like, well, you could be a 2, you could be a 5, you could be a this, because they're so dead gum healthy. And it pisses me off because the entire family's that way. And I'm just like,
That's when I start listening for verbiage.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, because you're going to say I think, and Ashley's going to say I feel, and I'm just going to be talking about action. And I start to listen to that, and then I go to. That's when the going to the stances helps too, or the assertive, withdrawn, dependent.
Yeah, I definitely think I could figure out their triad, or what
yes,
or the head, heart, body. Like I can figure that out, but from there,
and ultimately, if somebody asks me like, what type do you think I am? I'm like, I'm not telling you, even if I do think I know.
Yeah, I did that too. I was like, you're not supposed to, but I honestly don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's go, unless y'all want to talk any about type 1. All right, let's go to type 2, the helper. I wish I knew some type 2s. I'm just kidding. I love knowing 2s that are doing their work, Ashley. I salute you. Because pride is not an easy thing to admit to. And we all have it, let's be clear, right? Every single one of us. But when that's your passion, your underlying thing, it is a hard pill to swallow. So I salute you for the work that you've done, you're doing, and will continue to do. And I did listen to, I was going to message you yesterday, and I thought, no, I'll tell her today. So yesterday I listened to Ian Cron. He had I guess it was a couple weeks ago, his podcast. He interviewed a very healthy, teachable learning too. She is an entrepreneur, phenomenal podcast. And the whole time I'm just like, Ashley's going to eat this up. I think it's going to challenge you, but it just as much, it's going to validate the work you're doing. And she's a social subtype because she talks about the thing between a 2 and a 3. I don't want to give it all away. So I'll post the link in Twist, and anybody can watch it, because get into the inner world of a 2, especially a social 2. And then Ashley, you can let us know, because I don't see, you won't resonate with 100% of it, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be darn near close.
Well, that's what, when I read The Road Back to You, like, and I know Jessica was the same way, like she didn't want to read the 6 and she put it off. Well, 2 came very quickly in The Road Back to You. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just read them in order. We're not going to skip around. We're just going to read it in order, because that's what we do, right? There's the 1. Got to do things in order. But I was like, oh, like we were laying in bed and I'd be reading, and David would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading. Oh, like I was making all the noises, and he was like, what is going on over there? And so I'd read it to him, and he'd be like,
Mm,
Like, yeah, somebody just stepped on my toes and I'm laying in bed. That's not nice.
yeah. And they talk about that too in the
No.
podcast, is when you hear something washes over you that doesn't feel good, you're kind of like, oh, maybe it's my type. But
Like when she
through
said
the,
that about the pride, I was like, that's not me.
because it's an unconscious motivation. That's the thing. It's unconscious. So when somebody brings pride into your consciousness, you're going to kick and scream. You're like,
But
no.
then the more she kept talking, I was like, oh God. Oh God, it's me.
Okay. So this is through the lens, this chapter, and the next chapter is going into their each type's basic desire and fear. But this based on emotional self-awareness, emotional and intelligence. Like Ashley, what out of this, or almost maybe all of it, or really stuck out to you, because I know you highlighted?
I think the biggest thing for me was because all of it did resonate, but the very last sentence when it says they can be their own independent person without basing their worth on the acceptance and affection of the people in their lives. Like that is something for me that I really have to work on. Because for a long time I was Tim's wife and then Caleb and Emily's mother. And then, my identity was in my role,
Okay.
and then we divorced. I didn't have that wife role anymore. I just had to be Ashley. And that was a really hard 10 years to try to figure out who I was, who I wanted to be, like who I really was, without having someone else to have that identity, and now, yes, I'm Ashley Craig, but it's very rarely that I say I'm David Craig's wife, like that's not my identity. And that has been a huge big thing for me in the last probably 10 to 15 years, is that when we got married, I didn't take on the identity. I took on his last name,
So
and y'all only know me as Ashley Craig, but for a long time I wasn't.
right. And I think there are women in general go through that, as because we are society teaches us, right, that you're the wife of somebody, you're the mother of these kids. And then as our different types, how that plays out in our lives is different. So like in that sentence, you can be your own independent person without basing your worth or on the acceptance and affection of the people in their lives. So let's look outside of the role of wife and mother. Okay. And Ashley is not necessarily needed in the other relationships in her life. In other words, my friends aren't really aren't asking for me for anything. Pure romance, I don't feel needed right now. I'm not helping anybody right now. Then am I still an independent person?
Right.
Because I'm not necessarily meeting the needs of anybody else right now.
Yeah.
Whether it is family, friends, coworkers, whatever.
Well, and that was, the taking the step back from leadership was a big deal for me because
Huge.
part of my
Huge.
identity in pure romance was being a leader,
Yeah.
and so to break away from that and not be dependent on it, to be my own person inside of pure romance, which I had been for a while before I stepped into leadership. But it's like the moment that I stepped onto the pure romance scene, I was a leader, like whether I wanted to admit it or not. And then, and future leaders helped with that too, to see that, you can influence without the label of a leader. And that was like a
Because that
huge
is leadership,
awakening for
is
me.
influence. Yeah. You don't have to have a title yeah.
Right.
You're leading.
Right.
Trust me.
Right.
Yeah. One way or the other, you're influencing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was a big deal for me too. And so that's, like, I still influence, just it looks different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was that, but it was a big deal for me to step back from that title
Let's
to to say I'm not,
sure.
and do that. It was a big deal. So
Let's jump to a time remaining. Let's jump to 6 and 8. And just to Jessica give you an opportunity, and then we'll pick up next time. So on page 39, what about this resonates with you?
I underlined basically the entire section just because. There is something that I don't know, for some reason it bothers me, but it's the part where it says some Enneagram teachers believe that sixes make up as much as the half of the world's population. And later in the next section, I actually wrote, I was like, this brings out my 4 side because I don't like hearing that it's that common.
Yes. No, that's
like it
good.
bothers me. It bothers me that it says half the world. I'm like, no, I'm not half the world's population. Dear God, I hope not.
No.
But like it makes sense because then it goes into upholding things and
Yeah, it is our
needing structure.
Yes.
And like it makes sense because
Yes.
those are the people that are kind of keeping the world together. And it's like I was looking back at my notes at one of the podcasts, or the one that you sent for the 6. And at the very end of it, it talks about how they were looking at a group of like chimpanzees or something, and they removed all of
Yes.
like the anxious ones. They came back a year later, they were all dead
Yes.
because they didn't have anybody to like make sure that everything was okay, or be the sentries.
Yes.
Or
Ask the hard questions. Ask, what about this? But what about this? Yeah, no, I thought that was an amazing thing. All of them.
Yeah. So that made me feel good about being a 6.
Yeah. No, 6s are
But
one of the best numbers for me to surround myself with, because I'm such a doer that I will feel like a 6 is a wet blanket for me. But now that I have the understanding, I'm like, God, 6s add such value to me. They help me to slow down. And I'm like, all right, what are the things that I'm not thinking of? So yeah, but yeah, no, I've heard it said by quite a few Enneagram teachers that they think 6s make up about half the population, and 9s there's a lot of 9s as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was just something that like kept coming up in this book because it's said multiple times, and I'm just like, I don't know why, but that annoys me for some reason. But that's my 4. I know that's my 4.
And 4s are actually they say the
rarest.
The rarest. Yeah. And 8s,
yeah.
8s, I think, in the bottom 3 of the rare, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is where kind of that, if I don't get everything done, the world won't come to an end type of mindset.
Yeah. Where it says not everything is doomed to failure, but unhealthy 6s often think it is.
Yeah. And talking about like the pessimism very, very much resonates with me. But I do think it's interesting because like even when, so in the part it's like, in order to strengthen interpersonal relationships, they should also work on encouraging others to boost morale. I found that interesting because thinking back to when I was 13, middle school age, when playing sports, like I would always get the award for like at the end of the year, like they would do like individual awards, and I always got like the encourager or the cheerleader, like I would start the cheers to chant to like if someone was at bat or whatever. And like thinking back on that, and I'm like, that was so natural for me to do.
Yeah.
And I had no idea why, because I wouldn't classify myself as a cheerleader or anything like that. Like I would classify myself as like an encourager, but then when it comes to myself, I can't do anything for anybody kind of thing. And so it's like, it was weird. So it was almost like I was projecting it. So I was almost doing that without realizing that I was doing it, because obviously like in the middle of like, as I'm cheering other people on, like I'm getting hyped because I'm cheering them on. But then when it comes for my time to be at bat, then it's dead silent kind of thing. Like not that in my world, like it feels like it's dead silent when I'm at bat, but then I'm the one carrying the chant when someone else is, it's so much easier for me to encourage someone else versus to believe in my own self. Or it's easier for me to be like, yeah, you got this. This is, you could do this in your sleep. But then when it comes to my own.
Yes. Oh, I can totally see that. So Rachel Kovac is very much like that in my life. And when it comes time for her, I'm like, where the hell for me, you'll be, but why not for you? you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like what
So
it
that
says.
was,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just like, it was interesting because it brought up that memory, because I haven't thought about that in years. But the one it says encouraging others, because I was like, yeah, I used to do that a lot. And then I'm thinking back, I'm like, yeah, I do that. But it's like, I don't know, like, I guess I never want it to seem fake.
Well, and the
And so
thing
now
is,
I'm thinking back.
if you look at each type, like for you, you know, what you're willing to do for others that sometimes we won't do for ourselves. Same with Ashley for type 2, is we will lean into helping to meet the needs of other people without doing it for ourselves first. And that's the thing with self-awareness, is our self-respect increases to where I am willing to lean more into what is healthy for me first, which sustains me, increases my capacity to be able to be even better for the people that I love. But yeah, I love too, in that last paragraph, it says, in order to move toward integration and work on their emotional intelligence, 6s should consciously develop their optimism, which is not anything you don't know, but yeah. Okay, for type 8, I don't know. Have y'all ever experienced me, and please be honest, I'm an 8, be honest, as downright aggressive?
I have not personally. I've heard of your aggressive love.
Okay. How have you
And I
heard?
mean that like aggressive meaning more of like the assertive thing we were
Okay.
talking about.
All right. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. No,
assertive.
yeah, the good kind of
Okay.
aggressive. I've never heard of you being described as aggressive in a negative way.
Yeah. Okay. An 8 moving towards growth, I'm on page 42, should pay close attention to their style and how they come across to others. And I've heard on several podcasts that 8s are not very, the average 8 is not very self-reflective. And so for that, I'm proud that to do the work, to lean into that self-reflective, so I can learn. It's not always easy. Let's see. 8s that have been doing some kind of personal work to develop their emotional intelligence are still fearless and strong-willed, but they have learned to put those personality traits into use by exuding confidence in a healthy way and standing up for those who might be weaker than themselves. And I like to think that I do that. Not that I still can't be a bull in a china shop when I am under stress, because I can. But yeah. Okay. So I think next time, because this chapter is, we can probably just go ahead and dive into the next chapter, starting with 3, because then that's going into essential characteristics, but also core motivation, basic fear, and basic desire. So to be able to speak to those is going to be kind of cool. And I think y'all have already read chapter 3. So why don't we just say 3 through 6? Is that good? Or no, 3, 4, and 5. 3, 4, and 5. Or do y'all want to go on through? Yeah, let's just do 3, 4, and 5, because we're not going to get through that. What does that take us to? 4, it's just discovering type. Some of this. Oh, there's your thing to typing. Type.
Yeah, because 6 is the last chapter with a conclusion after.
Okay, yeah. So maybe we just. Oh, they do more of the stress points.
And chapter 5 is 40 pages long.
Yeah. Okay. Chapter 5 is what?
Is 33 pages long.
Yeah, because we may not, if y'all are good with us, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I don't know how much time we'll spend on the typing part. Unless y'all want to, you know what I mean? Like, Okay. So yeah, let's do 3, 4, and 5. And then I can review. I'll need to review.
Okay.
Okay, let me make a note here. And then let's talk about next month. These Excel and Elevate. I don't know how long this is going to go on right now that we're doing at noon every Tuesday from 12 to 1. They're going into depth with us about Uncovered. So I don't know how long or if that will continue to be every Tuesday, even after Uncovered. I don't know. So let's just plan for that. And then our next time we would meet, we have down on November 16th at noon. Do y'all want to just do 1:30 again or 12:30 your time?
I will actually be on a cruise ship.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's our anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
How long will you be gone?
I'll be gone the 14th through the 21st.
Okay.
So I'd be the 9th or the 23rd, but if that doesn't work, then don't change it because of me.
Could possibly do the 9th. The 23rd, I'm leaving to go to Florida. The whole family's going to Florida for Thanksgiving. So
Oh, sweet.
Fun.
yeah. So I'm leaving on that Tuesday. But I could even do the 9th or the 11th.
Either of those work for me.
Same.
All right, why don't we just stick with Tuesday so it's less confusing?
Okay.
And so Cronky, we're looking at November 9th at 12. She's on Central, right? She's
Yep.
on, okay. At 12:30. So after you watch this, Cronky, just let us know if that doesn't work for you. We're going to get all 3 of us on here at the same damn time.
At some point.
At some point.
Did it a couple
guys.
months ago.
Let's go live in this vendor group.
Yes. And I'll
You got it.
a new calendar request for the 9th instead of
Okay.
the 16th. All right. I love y'all.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you.
All right. Bye.